playing games. WNBA players deserve a higher salary and better working conditions. Send an email to WNBA leadership telling them to negotiate in good faith and pay their players fairly. Now y'all asking them to email. Y'all asking Tom, Dick, and Harry from down the street to send emails to the WNBA office on y'all behalf.
Stop playing games. Those 3 words weren't posted accidentally, and they certainly weren't subtle. On the exact same day the WNBA officially released its 2026 season schedule, the Players Association chose not to celebrate, not to acknowledge history, and not to recognize the expansion or growth of the league. Instead, they went straight for confrontation. No congratulations for the league's 30th anniversary. No acknowledgement of the addition of 2 new franchises. Just a public call-out aimed directly at ownership, designed to apply pressure through embarrassment rather than negotiation. And that choice matters. At a moment when the league is attempting to project stability, growth, and professionalism to broadcast partners, sponsors, and arenas, the union deliberately shifted the focus to conflict. The post wasn't framed as advocacy. It was framed as accusation. The message wasn't directed privately toward league executives or ownership groups. It was aimed outward, weaponizing public opinion. Even more telling, the union didn't stop with a statement. They actively encouraged fans to email league leadership directly, effectively turning collective bargaining into a crowdsourced pressure campaign. That's where the dynamic becomes concerning. Collective bargaining agreements are not negotiated through Instagram stories. They are not resolved through comment sections or mass email campaigns. They are complex. Legal processes involving financial disclosures, long-term projections, revenue sharing models, and contractual safeguards. By pulling fans into the middle of an unfinished negotiation, the Players Association blurred the line between labor advocacy and public theater. Meanwhile, the league itself is trying to conduct real business. Broadcast contracts must be honored. Arena dates must be secured months in advance. Travel logistics, staffing, and marketing timelines depend on schedule certainty. None of that pauses because negotiations are tense. Yet instead of acknowledging those realities, the union chose to frame the schedule release as provocation, as if the league was deliberately ignoring players rather than fulfilling its obligations. This is the uncomfortable reality of where things stand. While the WNBA is attempting to sell confidence and growth to partners like ESPN, CBS, Amazon Prime, and ION, the Players Union is waging a parallel public relations battle on social media. One side is operating in boardrooms. The other is operating in stories and captions. That disconnect doesn't just create tension, it creates risk. Risk to perception, risk to credibility, and risk to the long-term bargaining position of the very players the union represents. Advocacy is powerful, but only when it strengthens leverage rather than diluting it. Public pressure can work, but only when it complements negotiation, not replaces it. Right now, the message coming from the union isn't unity or strategy. It's frustration broadcast without filter. And while that may resonate emotionally, it raises serious questions about whether this approach moves the process forward or simply escalates it for attention.
Stop with the social media games, man. But the WNBA paid them no mind, as they've been paying them no mind as of late anyway. The WNBA has been paying these ladies no mind, Brad. I know they don't like it. They can't stand it. They want things done how they want them done. And let's get into this.
The Players Association's demands themselves are not the issue. Higher pay, improved working conditions, long-term security. These are valid, necessary, and overdue conversations. The problem lies entirely in how those demands are being communicated. Professional negotiations do not happen through Instagram stories. They happen in conference rooms through legal frameworks, financial modeling, and compromise. When a union invites fans to flood executives' inboxes, it risks turning a serious labor discussion into a spectacle. Imagine if the NFL Players Association had responded to every league announcement during the 2020 CBA talks with social media slogans and fan-driven email campaigns. It would have weakened their negotiating position, not strengthened it. Ownership groups expect seriousness. They expect structure. And when those expectations aren't met, they question intent. The danger for the WNBA Players Association is simple. Credibility once lost is hard to regain. The league is growing. The schedule proves it. The opportunities are expanding. But growth requires cooperation, not just confrontation. Right now, the union must decide what it wants more, attention or results. Because only one of those actually changes contracts.
Las Vegas Aces finals rematch versus Phoenix Mercury, and Caitlin and the Indiana Fever hosting Paige Beckers and the Dallas Wings. Damn, Angel, you really got bumped. Angel, you got bumped out of the main games. That's crazy work. That's crazy work. Los Angeles to host New York Liberty June 21st in a rematch of WNBA's inaugural game on anniversary of matchup. Here it says, the WNBA today released its game schedule for the 2026 season.
Ironically, the 2026 WNBA schedule itself represents one of the strongest business statements the league has ever made. From top to bottom, it is structured to maximize attention, revenue, and long-term growth. Opening night on Friday, May 8th delivers exactly what modern sports audiences want. Paige Buecher's making her professional debut against Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. That is not hype-driven storytelling. That is elite basketball talent colliding on the biggest possible stage. The league didn't stop there. A rematch of the 2025 WNBA Finals between the Las Vegas Aces and Phoenix Mercury Anchors opening weekend, reinforcing continuity and competitive legacy. Historical recognition is woven into the schedule as well, with a Liberty matchup commemorating the league's inaugural 1997 game. Structurally, the league expands to 44 games per team, up from 40, signaling confidence in demand and operational capacity. A built-in break from August 30th to September 16th accommodates the FIBA World Cup, protecting players while maintaining global relevance. Over 200 of the league's 300 games will air on national television or major streaming platforms. This is not a league acting recklessly. This is a league positioning itself for revenue growth. And revenue growth is the foundation of every single player demand currently on the table. Higher salaries don't materialize without stronger broadcast deals. Better benefits don't exist without sustainable cash flow. This schedule is designed to generate exactly that, which makes the union's public hostility toward it all the more puzzling.
Of 330 games being available through the league's national broadcast and streaming partners. Here's a quote: as we prepare for tip-off the WNBA's historic 30th season, the schedule reflects both how far the league has come and the momentum that continues to drive us forward, said WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, from welcoming to two new organizations in Toronto and Portland. So it says all 15 teams will be in action during opening weekend. So the
timing of the Players Association's response was not coincidental, no matter how it's framed. The WNBA did not release its 2026 schedule as a symbolic gesture or power play. It did so because it had no choice. The league is bound by contractual, operational, and logistical obligations that exist independently of collective bargaining negotiations. Broadcast partners require schedules to plan advertising inventory, production crews, and national programming slates. Arenas need confirmed dates to coordinate staffing, ticketing, and shared tenancy. Expansion teams in Toronto and Portland cannot finalize operations without knowing when and where games will be played. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert addressed this reality directly. She stated publicly that the schedule had to be released so that partners and stakeholders could begin essential planning, even in the absence of a finalized CBA. That statement wasn't controversial. It wasn't aggressive. It was factual, and it aligns perfectly with precedent across professional sports. The NFL released its 2021 schedule while labor discussions were ongoing. The NBA did the same during the turbulent 2011 negotiations. Major leagues do not freeze operations while bargaining continues, because doing so would harm everyone involved, including players. The WNBA followed that same standard practice. Yet the Players Association framed the schedule release as disrespect. That framing is where credibility begins to erode. Releasing a schedule does not halt negotiations. It does not invalidate union proposals. It does not prevent progress at the bargaining table. It simply allows the league's ecosystem to function. To suggest otherwise is to misrepresent how professional sports leagues operate. More importantly, the implication that the league acted in bad faith by fulfilling its obligations ignores the complexity of the process. Negotiations can continue while business proceeds. In fact, they must. The alternative, delaying schedules, freezing partnerships, and creating uncertainty, would damage revenue streams that players are actively seeking a larger share of. This is the contradiction at the heart of the union's messaging. On one hand, they're demanding higher salaries, improved benefits, and better working conditions. On the other hand, they're criticizing the very mechanisms that generate the revenue required to fund those demands. Business continuity is not anti-player. It is pro-sustainability. By framing the schedule release as an insult, the union risks alienating partners who expect professionalism and reliability. Networks do not invest millions into uncertainty. Sponsors do not commit to chaos. If the league appears unstable, everyone loses leverage, including the players. The issue isn't that negotiations are happening. That's normal. The issue is how those negotiations are being portrayed publicly. Turning standard operational decisions into symbols of disrespect may generate short-term attention, but it weakens the long-term argument. Good faith bargaining requires acknowledging reality, even when it's inconvenient. And the reality is simple. The WNBA released its schedule because it had to, not because it wanted to undermine its players.
Things to say about this as well. But this is definitely exciting. You know, even though we are still looking at a lockout in this current moment, to see that there is some sort of, just to see a schedule is exciting. Like, man, Paige Beckers versus Caitlin Clark opening night. We still got free agency, bro. We need to get a deal done. We got a lot to get to. These players got to stop playing games. Alexa Philippou said what to know about the WNBA's 2026 season. 44 regular season games, a break for the...
What makes the Players Association strategy especially problematic is not just what they've said publicly, but what they haven't done privately. The union exercised its right to opt out of the existing CBA in 2024, a legitimate and strategic move. They submitted their proposal to the league, and then for an extended period, progress slowed to a crawl. For more than a year, visible momentum was minimal. Only in January 2025 did players begin publicly acknowledging that they could finally see a finish line. That admission came from Breanna Stewart herself. Think about what that means. Over 12 months into the process, and only then was there a sense of tangible movement. During that same period, however, the union's social media presence intensified. Every few weeks, another post appeared criticizing ownership, questioning good faith, or implying deliberate stalling. Yet negotiations are not one-sided. Good faith is reciprocal. Silence at the table paired with noise online sends a confusing message. Negotiations require persistence, pressure, and patience. But pressure must be applied strategically. Public callouts can be effective when paired with behind-the-scenes engagement. Without that balance, they start to look performative rather than productive. That's the danger here. If the union appears more invested in optics than outcomes, ownership has every reason to question priorities. Are these posts leverage, or are they venting? Are they designed to move negotiations forward, or simply to maintain visibility and solidarity among fans? Labor history shows that credibility at the bargaining table matters. Once that credibility is undermined, every demand becomes harder to sell, even the reasonable ones. The players deserve better pay. They deserve improved working conditions. Those points are not controversial. What is controversial is the tactic being used to pursue them. Public pressure without visible private progress risks exhausting goodwill from fans and partners alike. Negotiation is not a sprint. It's an endurance test. And endurance requires discipline, not just passion.